Hello, this is April the 13th, which means here in East Tennessee, spring has officially sprung and the flowers are blooming and things are coming back to life, and that means that the bee colonies are going to start growing out again. And that means we might have an opportunity to see some swarm activity. So what I have here is a swarm trap, and that's actually a bit of a misnomer. It's actually a swarm lure is a better way to describe it, because the bees are not actually trapped in here. What this is, well, let's explain a little bit further. When a colony of bees decides it's too big for its current home, the hive will raise another queen, and then the old queen, with up to possibly as much as half of the bees, will fly out and form a swarm and go looking for another home. This would be an ideal home for a young colony of bees. This is basically a miniature top bar hive. For you langstroth people, this would be the equivalent of a nuke. So let's take a quick look inside. Now, when I first did this, I just made a box like this. And the problem with it was they built all of the comb on the lid. And so when I lifted the box, I had all that comb dangling around, and I had to try to see if I could frame it and get it going. I ended up stressing the bees so bad and it didn't work. So then I thought, well, wait a minute. If I made this into a top bar and had this be the ceiling, then they would actually draw their comb off of the bars, and then I could possibly, theoretically, I would be able to just take the bars and transfer them into the permanent hive. So this is how I make the bars. They are exactly 1 3/8 wide, and I cut a groove into it, and I put a little piece of foundation. This is approximately maybe 3/4 to 1 inch wide. And that gives them a starter and a guide for where to draw their comb. And also because of the fact that this foundation is overlaid with beeswax, even the smell itself will actually draw them to it. So basically, this would be an ideal spot for them. Now, what we use for bait to lure the colony is lemongrass oil, and I've actually already done some of it. So what I have here are 2 Q-tips that I have soaked in lemongrass oil, and I put them into a Ziploc bag. And what I do then is because I don't want the Q-tips to dry out, but I also want the odor to get out, or the fragrance, whatever you want to call it. I seal it up about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way. That lets a little bit of air out, but it also keeps them fresh inside and keeps them moist. In addition to that, I also put a drop right on the opening there too. So then what we do is we just put the bars in just like so. And I did this quite often back in Florida. And basically, if you had a colony that swarmed within, I guess usually about within a quarter to a half a mile, this is probably the most ideal place that honeybees would find to be able to build in their home. So I'm going to screw the lid down, and the reason I use screws, not nails, is because then it's really easy to back the screws out rather than trying to use a hammer and a pry bar and banging around and everything like that and disturbing the hive. You want to be able to move as gently as possible. So I've got a little hole here that's fairly big, and then I'll just run a screw in here. And what I do, I've already got a screw up here, and we'll just hang that thing over like that. And I've got another screw that I will use to anchor it. So basically, let's see here. Just right there. Let's move it up here. Okay, and that's anchored. Generally, we like to put it somewhere around eye level, 5 or 6 feet off the ground. This is just about right. I've got it facing south, so it'll get the warm sun. And we've got woods back there, but then nice big open area up here. That's usually a pretty good ideal place to put a hive. They'll like that. And that means when they come out to go foraging, they've got a nice clear shot to wherever they want to go, nothing in them blocking the way. So from this time, at this point, it's up to the bees. If there is a colony nearby that swarms, it's very, very likely that we will catch a swarm, but there's no guarantee that this is going to happen, so we're just going to have to wait and see. And this is the second trap I've set today. We set one on another piece of property, and I'm going to set another one tomorrow on another piece of property about 20 miles away. So hopefully between the three of them, at least one of them, maybe two of them will be successful. Another thing you can do too that I've done is if I find out one does actually catch, is I'll take another swarm trap and put it there in the same place, because often a hive will, or a colony will put off what we call a cast swarm, which basically means that one of the new queens will also swarm. She'll decide she doesn't like to live there and she'll take off with a smaller bunch of bees, but that should still be a viable colony as well. So sometimes you get two for the price of one. So we'll just wait and see what happens. I mentioned that I put a drop of lemongrass right on the opening. Every week when I come back and check it, I'll add a drop there just to keep the aroma fresh. And I'm not sure exactly why lemongrass works. They say it mimics the queen pheromone. I can smell the queen pheromone. It doesn't really remind me of lemongrass oil, but the bees seem to think it's okay and it works very well. So to me, I think it smells a little bit more like sweet butter, but I'm not a bee. So anyway, we're just going to wait and see what happens. So if we're successful, we'll do another video and show us actually putting them into a hive and show you how easily it works. So hopefully we'll see what happens.